Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Jaron Boots Ennis. Some people call him the boogeyman of the welterweight division. Other people say that he's the average man. I personally think that he is the boogeyman, but his matchmakers did him an injustice, putting him in the ring with Chikhadzian, because Chikhadzian, although he has outstanding footwork, he's an outstanding fighter. Once he tasted, this is from Chikhadzian's mouth, once he tasted the power of Jaron Boots Ennis, Chikhadzian said he knew he couldn't take those shots. So Chikhadzian, it wasn't even a matter of just having really clever footwork. He got on his bicycle, and it is what it is. But Chikhadzian landed some really good shots. The fight was interesting, but he didn't want to exchange with Jaron Boots Ennis. But Jaron Boots Ennis was rumored to be returning on the Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia undercard. But, with boxing, it's so frustrating. You hear that certain fights are being made or certain fights are going to happen at a certain period in time. And then when the dust settles, the fight doesn't get made, and then the fight doesn't happen when they say. Like Jaron Boots Ennis was supposed to be fighting on 22 April. He's supposed to be on the undercard of Tank Davis and Ryan Garcia. Well, that's not taking place now. And he's supposed to be trying, from what I'm understanding, he's trying to headline his own show with his own fight card, right? In either Atlantic City or Philadelphia. Now my thing is, when I look at this, because Jaron Boots Ennis, this man has 30 wins, 27 KOs. So if we're going to sit here and question the resumes of other 147-pounders, like Terence Crawford, then we need to question the resume of Boots Ennis to be at 30 fights with 27 KOs with really questionable opponents on his resume. But my question is this, right? Is Jaron Ennis really ready to headline his own show? The amount of exposure, because first of all, I want to say this. Everyone knows who he is. He's not a guy that has 6 or 7 fights. The entire boxing community knows who Jaron Boots Ennis is. But as far as the continued gaining exposure, it makes me wonder what his team was doing by pulling him off a Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia undercard, right? To get him the exposure. You pull him off and say, no, he's ready to headline his own show. I'm not sold on that. But anyway, look like he's going to try to headline his own card in May or June in Atlantic City or Philadelphia. But I'm not sure that's the kind of exposure, he's going to get the kind of exposure he wants. But, it is what it is. Now, if he has the right opponent, then that could help Jaron Boots Ennis to boost his profile and get him some exposure. But he has to fight an opponent with a name. It was rumored he was going to fight Roman Villa. That right now doesn't seem to be going forward. So Jaron Boots Ennis is without an opponent at this moment. And I'm going to tell you this right now. When you're Jaron Boots Ennis, and whether you fight, you need to fight guys with names. Because what happened with him and Chikhadzian, that to me ultimately eroded some of his popularity. But he has an opportunity now to regain some of his popularity. Now, it depends on who he fights, and it depends on the undercard if he's going to be able to put on the kind of showing to where fans are going to be excited and want to tune in. But I tell you what, I just don't think Boots Ennis is in any kind of space to be headlining his own cards, especially go to Atlantic City or to go do it in Philadelphia. Now, I don't know what network is going to carry his fight. I have no idea about that. But what I am telling you is, if he wants a shot at Earl Spence, which we know that, look, he has an interim title, IBF champion, title. He's supposed to be next in line for Spence after the winner of Stanley Eunice and Ortiz. But this is the thing. It's going to be very interesting to see if he will ever get a shot at damn Earl Spence. Earl Spence has too many belts. Got mandatories across every single sanctioning body. Boots Ennis, I just don't think Spence is gonna be around for Boots to finally get his shot. Like Spence isn't going to defend his IBF belt against Boots Ennis. It is what it is. And but by the time it gets around to them talking about Boots fighting whoever the champion is at that time, trust me, Spence would have been vacated and will be out of there. So what could happen if Spence vacates is Boots could be upgraded to the full-blown IBF champion. That could happen. But it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? I know his dad, Boozy Ennis, really wants Boots to fight Earl Spence so he can get that name on his resume because they truly believe Boots would beat Earl Spence. But it is what it is. One thing we know for his next fight, it won't be an Earl Spence. It won't be a Terence Crawford. Matter of fact, I'm not sure who he's going to fight. Even if he was to fight a guy like Ugas, who's a great fighter, people are going to have things to say. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have things to say because Ugas did take a serious beating from Earl Spence. But Ugas is still a great fighter, you know, but it is what it is. But we'll see what happens once the dust settles, where Boots is going to be. But I definitely feel he needs to be careful because he could be going down a path, which I got to be careful when I say this. Whether Boots Ennis is going down a path like Terence Crawford by choice or by promoter. With Terence Crawford, you know, a lot of people just don't like Terence Crawford. And I understand the frustration with him. But everyone went from loving Terence Crawford to all of a sudden like hating the man. Like, that's just horrible to me. But I get it. They're frustrated. They want to see him fight, you know, Spence or whatever. But damn, I could see Boots Ennis ending up in the same situation as Terence Crawford. Because you look at how many people he's fought. It's really nothing on his resume. He's about to have another fight. If he doesn't get a big name, people are going to get frustrated. You can't come and say, well, I'll tell you what. People are going to get frustrated anyway because that's just the nature of these boxing fans. But he's calling out the Spence. He's calling out the Crawfords. He said he'll fight anybody. But I don't think he has the muscle yet to do like Deontay Wilder and just say, oh, this is who you want me to fight? I don't want that fight. I want bigger fights. And then for people to get behind him, get the money behind him, and to try to get him much bigger fights, more high-profile fights that'll give him a higher payday. Boots Ennis isn't in that position. He's almost in a position where he takes what he can, which is very similar to how Crawford was coming up, where he's under a promoter, and, you know, whoever is put in line, that's who he fights. I'm not talking about Crawford today. I'm talking about Crawford coming up. But at some point, I think Boots Ennis' popularity will start to erode when it comes to the boxing fans because they want to see him fight somebody. He can't get to 40-0 with no damn 35 knockouts, 37 knockouts. Let me tell you that. He cannot get to 40-0 with 37 to 38, 35 knockouts. He just can't get there. Excuse me. If he does that, boxing fans will turn on him. So he and his management company and his dad, they got to figure it out. They don't even care if he gets a belt. They want to see him fight somebody. So Boots Ennis may end up at some point having to jump up and fight at 154. But it is what it is. But I would tell you right now, I think Boots Ennis has a good chance against anybody. Against Spence, against Crawford, against Ortiz, you know, Stanley Eunice. I think he has a good chance against all those guys. But at the same time, I'm not saying he wins those fights. I'm just saying he has a good chance. But he's got to get in there against some real competition. Like, it's overdue. It's overdue. They got to figure it out. They got to figure it out now. But that being said, more to come on his fight date, location, opponent. But what we do know is he is not fighting on the Ryan Garcia Tank Davis undercard, which I think is a big mistake because there are going to be a lot of people tuning into that fight. A lot of people are interested in that fight. And if that fight is going the right direction right now, I hate to see them miss an opportunity. But it is what it is. That being said, let me say this: miss an opportunity to make people view him in a different light who tuned into the Tank Davis recent fight against Hector Garcia, where Boots fought on the undercard. I think he has an opportunity to come back and make some corrections, but doesn't like to want to do that. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. I'm in the breeze.